In this tip tool, In this tooltip, I want to talk about the magic wand in Photoshop. Now, the magic wand has kind of lost its favor for select subject and select and mask. I mean, there's a ton of different tools you can use now for selecting things that probably work better than the magic wand. That doesn't mean that I don't still love this little tool, because it and I have made a lot of masks in our lifetime together before Photoshop got all fancy with selecting subject. So I think it merits learning about Magic Wand because it can be a useful tool for selecting areas of your image. It is one of the tools up there with Marquee and Lasso that allows you to select portions of your image. All right, it is the top tool in its tool food chain, so it should be easy for you to find as the fourth tool down in Photoshop 2023. Who knows where it'll be by 2024. All right, so what this magic wand does is it takes a sample of pixels and it makes them a selection based upon where you click in the image. It is most effective when you have a background that is the same color. So here is with the image being a completely different color, by the way. So I do a lot of work with jewelry and horses. I know, who would figure that out? But I get images like this a lot from the jeweler that I work with that have like, it's been shot on this like really stark white background, but it's not cut out. And I have to have that white background be transparent in order to place it on ads the way that I need to place it on the ads. So a lot of times, because the background is so white, the Magic Wand tool works really, really well for me to be able to get that background out of the image. So a couple of prep steps that I've already done is I've already named this layer, and it's just layer 0. I don't need it to be a fancy name. I'm not that high of an organized photographer. Some other people would have named this like the name of the piece of jewelry, but for me, layer 0 works. Okay, and then I've selected my Magic Wand tool, and I want you to notice up here across the top, I'm going to go ahead and select this first box here, which is kind of my initial selection. These are ways that I can add to or subtract or intersect with the selection that I'm going to make. So they're little tweaks that I can do to this particular tool. And then here I have the sample size, which is a point sample, or I can adjust it here. And I have the tolerance. So the tolerance goes from 1 to 255. And at 255, it's everything. And at 1, it is just simply the exact pixel you clicked on. Whatever pixels are like that is what's going to select. Most of the time I leave this for an image like this that has a pretty clear delineated background. I'm going to leave it really low because it'll be fine. If I have an image, and I'm going to show you a different image here in a moment with this tool, I may need to adjust that to make it be able to select a little bit more of what I need. So in this case, 10 is going to work great. And then anti-alias means that it is going to smooth around my selection. And contiguous means contiguous. Now, sample all layers would mean that if I was taking this point sample and I were on a layer and there were layers underneath that layer, I could choose to either take it from the layer that I'm on, which is what it's set up to now, or I could sample all the layers underneath that layer. All right. And then Photoshop has been kind enough to remind me, hey, guess what? The Magic Wand is getting kind of antiquated. If you really want to select the subject, I could just go ahead and do that for you. But we're going to go ahead and play with the Magic Wand anyway. All right. So on the white area, I just click and it sets up my selection. Now, if I want to be able to add this to my selection, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick the next set of boxes over, which is add to, and I can click here and it's going to add it. And you can see it even added a little bit up the side of the bracelet. If I don't want it to do that, I can adjust my tolerance a little bit. So I'm just going to use my lasso tool to deselect and then grab my magic wand again. And I'm going to select this down to 1 because honestly, it's all white pixels, right? Oh, that wasn't enough. See how I got some noise down here? Okay, I need to do it a little higher. So let's try again. Well, probably not going to get it perfect. So 10 was still probably about the right number for this particular instance. But we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and choose whoops, I added. That was probably the problem there. These new boxes are a little bit befuddling to me. Let's go ahead and drop that to 5. Select here. Go ahead and add to it. I can also click down here and collect some of those. We'll click here. I'm still getting this little area right here, which is not probably acceptable for this, and I would actually use a different way to mask this particular image. Okay, if I'm going to mask this, by the way, and I recommend that versus a clean like delete cut, because that way you can go back and adjust it in these little areas where it's kind of messed up. I could go back and adjust that mask. I'm going to have to select the inverse because right now, the way that I have it set up, it's not going to select the right things. So inverse. And now my object is selected plus a few little white pixels over here to the left. And then I can click mask. And this is what comes out. As you can see, I've got some transparency here that I shouldn't have. And I've got some pixels down here that should really be transparent. So, but that's the basics of how the magic wand works. Again, there are tools now that are a little bit better for this particular task than it used to be. But the magic wand still comes in handy sometimes when you're doing little pieces of cleanup from select subject where the pixels are the same color. All right, we're going to move on from this image over to this sunset image because I want to demonstrate a little bit more about that tolerance figure. Okay, so if it's a tolerance of 5 and I click here, this is what I get. Okay, it's a very small amount of pixels. If I rank this up to 50 and I click in a very similar area, can you see the massive change there? If I go up to 100 and I do the same very basic area of clicking, you'll see I get a much cleaner, bigger area of pixels, and see the colors here are different than they are up here. So that's the way that that tolerance number works, is it works to be able to adjust, like it's not as tolerant, it gets more pixels that are close to that color, where the smaller number, it's more precise about what it chooses. All right, that's the magic wand for today. I hope you have enjoyed this. I know that there are now better ways to select items in Photoshop, but occasionally you might find it useful to use the magic wand out there in the world. All right, thank you and have a great rest of your day.